Hey guys, welcome to Russell Heritage Golf. Today's video is an absolute must. I can't wait to share it with you. What I love to do on the channel, and hopefully what you guys like receiving from the channel, is when I give you drills and exercises that will really help educate and influence your golf swing and make the whole process so much simpler. And that's exactly what I want to do. Now in today's video, I'm going to outline 3 core principles of the golf swing, and what we're also going to do is going to have a little catch up with George as well. And the reason why we're going to catch up with George is because it ties in beautifully with the lesson, but I don't want to keep you hanging around. So let's talk about the nits and gritty of the lesson first, and then if you want to hang around and see how George is getting on, then you can. Okay, so what we're going to do is simplify the golf swing to the point where it can be simplified too, because obviously it's a really difficult thing to repeatedly hit the golf ball where you want the thing to go, right? Let's not pretend it's not, but that's what we're going to try and simplify. Now up here, this is basically what the golf swing is all about, and this is what we're going to be having a look at with George's lesson, hence the reason why I want you guys to hang around. Now this is Flight Scope. This is something that I bought. I use it with my golf lessons. I also use it a lot in my practice. It's a really useful tool. They're mega expensive ball dopplers, but at least we can start to look at this sort of stuff and use it in a more simple way. Now what the Flight Scope essentially does is it tracks the ball flight, and then it gives you the data of what the club did to make the ball behave the way it did. And it's really useful. But to keep it simple, really all you're trying to do is 6 inches prior to 6 inches post impact, you're trying to keep that club head as neutral as you can. So we don't want to swing across the ball too much in either sort of direction. Hence, the first thing that I would suggest that you purchase, it's not going to cost you a lot of money, and most of you probably got a bit lying around, it's a 4x2 piece of wood. Now mine is still at full length. I've been meaning to saw it down, I still haven't got round to it, but you only need 2 foot, because you only need 1 foot to the left of the golf ball, 1 foot to the right of the golf ball. And what that's going to do is that's going to stop you swinging too much to the right because you would hit the wood, and too much across and to the left because you would hit the wood, right? So that's the first part, right? Because if you can miss that piece of wood, then you can manage your club path. However, we're still a little bit exposed, because some of you will be like, well, hang on a sec, I can still just come over the top, or I could come on the inside and flip. Yes, you can, but not for long, because the second thing you guys could do as the second piece of equipment is use a chair. I don't have a chair anymore. I've taken it up a level. No longer using a chair, I'm now using a laptop stand, right? The chair's better, I'm joking, I just don't have a chair in here. But basically the idea is that you put the chair alongside the back of your hips. Ideally you want to get in your posture, be probably 2 to 3 fingertips distance away, like so. And then yes, the idea is in the backswing position, your right hip or your trail hip should rotate and touch the butt board. And then as you come in towards the downswing, you'll kind of momentarily feel both butt cheeks on the butt board. But then the key thing is, and here's the key thing, post impact, you want to make sure that you get your lead hip on the butt board, right? And the importance of that you'll see in George's lesson. So I won't go into that too much. But what happens now is once you keep your butt on that butt board, that stops you doing things like coming over the top. And again, you'll see that in George's session. So that's the second thing which sort of starts to reduce how many faults you can have. So what we've sort of done is we're kind of saying, well, we've got to neutralize the club path, and we need to rotate as well, right? Because that helps us do what's known as move our swing direction through the golf club. So the last thing is, okay, well, we have to manage the club face. Question is, how do we manage the club face? Well, the way you manage the club face, and what you don't want to do in the club face, is you don't want it closing, right? And stay tuned for George's lesson, because that's a big theme. Now, how do you not close the club face? Well, you have to make sure your hands are ahead of the club head at impact. How do you do that, I hear you ask? Well, you have options. This is a Total Golf Trainer, something I bought on Amazon. It's absolutely fine. It is expensive for what it is. This is a tool rotation stick, something again that was actually a gift that somebody had bought. Nice piece of engineering, you know, not cheap but good. This is an alignment stick. This can go under the end of the shaft and you can hold it there, and this will cost you obviously the cheapest out of the bunch, and it's the easiest thing for me to do now. So all of a sudden, when you can't hit the wood and you have to keep your butt cheeks back on the board, and you have to make sure that the cane doesn't hit you in the rib cage, your options are limited. And all of a sudden you're going to start to feel that you can't stand up because you'd hit yourself with the ribs, yeah, and you would swing and hit out too much towards the board. You can't come over the top and get spinny because you would feel yourself hit the board. And all of a sudden your parameters of movement have been narrowed into what I would class as a really efficient golf swing. So if that's enough for you, fine. Go and get yourself a little piece of wood, go and get yourself an alignment stick, and just go and get yourself a butt board, and you're going to start to be in a really, really good place. You want to hang around and see George's lesson? I would suggest so, because that next part of the education is a really important part of the golf swing. Right. So if we're catching up, we had that little session last week.
Yeah.
Of which you've played some, of which you've had a haircut. And
some new shoes, a new bag.
I know. So you've had some really good golf.
Yeah.
So which way did it go? Did it go?
It went very good, bad.
Okay. and then you're here, right?
Yeah.
So so the bad is both ways still.
Yeah.
Okay. Bloody like army golf, aren't you? Right. Anyway, let's crack on and.
Just hit 3 exactly the same there.
What, pulls?
Yeah, kind of starting left, just drawing slightly. Yeah, that's 4.
So we know that the miss is towards the left-hand side at the moment, and quite clearly that's just because the club face is pointing too much to the left-hand side. We can see the club path is 0.7 to the right, which means slightly into out, if you like, and club face is left of that, which is a problem. What we can kind of see again from this sort of perspective is the same thing. What we can also see is a horizontal plane on the left-hand side, which is 1.2 to the right. This is just kind of like the direction the club is moving through the ball. The other thing which is really noticeable here is the attack angle is 0.9 up. So this is where we're sort of getting the problem, because we're sort of hitting up on the golf ball too much, and the club is sort of, once it's hit the ball, is sort of moving too much to the right of the target. And it doesn't necessarily force George to close the face, it's just that he's struggling to manage the club face. So if you kind of think like reference our drill that we're doing at the moment, it's almost like the club head is swinging too much towards the block of wood instead of moving around the block of wood. And that's the issue. So what we now need to do is we need to figure out a way to get George to strike more down the golf ball. Because if we can make the attack angle more of a negative number, so we strike more down the ball, that will also have an impact on that horizontal number as well and make the club move more to the left. And if we can strike more down and move more to the left, then what we should find is that we're able to produce much straighter shots. And, well, yeah, exactly what we need to be going for. That like there, so it's quite close to the toe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the simple idea of this is that I think the feeling that seems to work best for you is just swinging in a straight line.
Yeah.
Because the tendency that you have sometimes in the last swing is that if we were videoing it, the club gets underplaying in the takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to get that club moving straight back first and foremost. And then if you swing that up towards the top, okay, good. And then, exactly. So we want that club not swinging to the right.
Yeah.
So it would hit the cane on this side, yeah, on the left side. And we want to avoid hitting the cane on this side. Fine. So the way that I think you've got to try and do this is going back to Old Faithful. And if you swing up to the top, yeah, you stay there. Start again for me. So if we just move this a little bit further back. So if you swing up again, and then basically just get your left hip pushing into the chair and getting it well out of the way, yeah.
Well, to be honest, I was playing around yesterday, just because I've always felt like, cause I sometimes get a bit too spinny, don't I? And I always feel like I'm kind of more back this way.
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously I was watching a lot of the golf and was
Yeah,
looking at a lot of the swings, and a lot of them tend to be a bit more kind of over it.
So exactly. So if you kind of go, so it's still the same thing. So I think this is a really important thing. So whether this relates 100% to yourself,
Yeah.
let's just talk about it for a moment. So if you swing up to the top and pause, basically, if you now shift towards the and then keep going towards the left. So the feeling is that you're getting your chest over the ball.
Yeah.
Now if you swing up to the top again and pause, now if you go chest but kind of spin the hip, that's your over the top.
Yeah.
So most people that would kind of do that sort of feeling would become fearful that they're just going to swing over the top.
Yeah.
Just swap places for a moment. What I'm trying to suggest is that the importance of the hip depth on the chair is that what it does is when you pull the left hip back, it tilts the pelvis.
Okay.
And when you tilt the pelvis, it sort of drops the shoulder.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it stops it feeling like such an over the top smothering.
Yeah.
Because as long as you get the left hip back, it creates more of a tilt. So you can get the best of both worlds where you're smothering it.
Okay.
But you're not going to de-loft it
Yeah.
too much, and you're going to be more this way. For you, it's subtle,
Yeah.
really subtle. But I think that's what you're going to find with every golfer, and obviously a lot of
Yeah.
better golfers, that you've just got to try and neutralise that
Yeah.
as best as you possibly can. In the last session, you went too much to the left. In this session, you've kind of neutralised that, but the club face is now not square. So I
Okay.
think if you can try and get, like you said, more towards your left-hand side, it might
Yeah.
help the face stay a little more stable.
Yeah.
We're hitting straighter shots, so the shots are much straighter. Happy with some of the feelings and stuff that we've sort of been working on. What we can see here is the face to path 0.3 to the right, club path 0.6. So those numbers are smaller, which is much better. And we can also see the shift in the horizontal plane starting to move to the left-hand side. And equally from this perspective here, we can see the angle of attack is much more negative. So we're striking more down on the golf ball. The good thing for George is that we're starting to hopefully get a bit of a feeling for striking down and moving to the left without the club path being exasperated by swinging too much out to in. Just because I kind of know that's something that he doesn't necessarily likes to kind of try and see a straighter shot of flight if he can. Not the easiest thing to do in the world, but that's what he wants. So I feel like this has been really successful. And that is that, basically. So hopefully you have enjoyed today's video. Hopefully that is something that you're going to now go and practice and have a go with. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you get the chance to practice that stuff, share it with me. Share it with me on the Instagram. Share it with me wherever you want, all right? I'd love to see you guys practicing the sort of stuff that I'm suggesting. If not, it's just great to hear that your goal's getting better. And if you've got any questions, then obviously you can just drop them in the comments box and I'll get back to you, right? That's it. Always leave us one of those if you enjoyed it as well. I'll catch you with you guys again really soon.